So, before the attacks of Cindy James, when Cindy was 19, she married a man named Dr. Roy Makepeace. I don't like that name. That's odd to me. Now, he was 18 years older than her, so 19, 29, 37 years old, marrying a 19-year-old. Some may think that's a little weird. Um, she began working as a nurse and excelled at counseling children with emotional problems in 1982. So just I don't give the years there, but I'm guessing that's 3 years after she filed for divorce from her husband. The incidents started 4 months later. So if you're a law enforcement, you're obviously looking at Roy Makepeace first. Like, guys, it's in my last name. I make peace. Now, it wasn't long after that she first went to her parents and told them about harassing phone calls and letters she's been receiving. When the messages turned from sinister to threatening her life, she went to the police. As the harassment continues, those who knew Cindy said they could physically see the toll it was having on her. She had always been described as beautiful and vibrant, and now appeared tired and frayed. I'm sure they have to highlight frayed as if we don't know what they mean. Does anyone not know what frayed means? Disheveled, basically. Now the escalation, uh, the threats start ramping up. They escalate. Cindy found 3 dead cats hanging in her garden. Her porch light smashed, and when she tried to call the police, she discovered her telephone lines had been cut. Notes started appearing on her doorstep instead of being mailed. Soon after this, the physical attacks on Cindy herself started. Now, a friend of hers, Agnes Woodcock, showed up one night to visit. Agnes knocked on the door, but Cindy didn't answer. Cindy was known for her evening baths, and at first, Agnes just thought that's what could have been keeping her friend. Agnes walked around back, and to her dismay, found her friend Cindy crouched down, looking like she was trying to hide. When she realized it was her friend, Cindy got up. That's when Agnes saw a nylon stocking tied around Cindy's neck. Now, there are people and serial killers in the serial killers known to police that use this as an MO, a signature, if you will. But she was not killed. Cindy was shaken as she replayed what happened to her. Shortly before Agnes arrived, she said she had gone into her garage to get something, and someone grabbed her from behind. They wrapped the stocking around her neck and was strangling her. The only thing she got a good look at was the attacker's shoes, white sneakers. Not a good clue for the police to go on. Believing they got scared off and ran away when her friend arrived, Cindy was able to escape to the backyard and hide. Now, this is one of the images that was left for her. Now it's a woman strangling someone, a person in a body bag, a knife, and I see you. And there's another story of a woman named Cynthia Adams that, unlike this where there's a mystery, in the Cynthia Adams case, they know she was abducted and most likely killed. Years of violence. The notes became more dark, more threatening. One left on the windshield of Cindy's car showed a corpse being pushed into a morgue. Cindy started receiving orders of raw meat being sent to her home. Well, nowadays, people would be very accepting of that. They'd be like, oh, thank you. Inflation is pretty high right now. I appreciate that. Once she arrived to find her dog shaking and sitting in her own feces with a cord wound around her neck tightly. Sometimes she would receive near daily threats, then nothing for long periods. Her personal journals reflected how traumatized Cindy was with what was happening to her. And there's another picture of Cindy James. Now, what did she do to fight back? The police didn't seem to believe her stories, and they openly let her know that. So Cindy knew she had to fight for herself. She moved into her new house. She got her car painted, changed her last name, also hired a private investigator. Now, in these cases, if you're faking it, you can still do these things. And I've seen in some cases where they hire the private investigator and the private investigator proves the case that it was a hoax all along. So we either have a stalking murder here, or we have a person that's going through some kind of paranoid delusion believing they're being stalked. Maybe she's a targeted individual. We just don't know. Now, Ozzy, the private investigator, got started on the case, but he had the suspicion that his client was holding something back. When talking to Cindy's parents, they agreed they thought she was withholding crucial information. They speculated Cindy might have an idea who was doing all of this, but was scared to say. That's one theory. The other theory is she was doing it to herself. Shout out to 30 people here. I appreciate each and every one of you. So late one night, Ozzy hears these noises coming across a two-way radio and rushes over. He found her lying in the hallway with a knife through her hand and a note attached saying, "You are dead, bitch." Now, this was my problem with the case. If the guy wanted to kill her, he had ample opportunity twice already to do so. Cindy was motionless, and Ozzy at first thought she was dead, but he found a pulse. Cindy was taken to the hospital, and after regaining consciousness, she was able to tell investigators that she felt someone put a needle in her arm. She had no recollection of the stabbing. Now, the police, believing Cindy staged the attack, didn't even bother to take fingerprints at the home or on the knife and the note, which is just bad police work. If you want to prove that she's making this up, then you take those prints to prove she's making it up. Now, Ozzy didn't believe the private investigator is Ozzy, so that's the last time I'm going to say Ozzy, private investigator. Didn't believe that Cindy would have been able to inject the needle or stab herself at the angles that both entered the body. He strongly believed someone had attacked his client. But it's all in the details. Cindy wanted to try and remember anything she could and agreed to go under hypnosis and take a polygraph. Unfortunately, it was determined after testing Cindy was too, quote, traumatized to be able to give useful information. The calls started picking up with frequency, but they were short that a trace couldn't be made. The calls were so short, trace couldn't be made. Excuse me, guys. Hey, what's up, Just K? Good to see you. I decided to come on, even though earlier. I can't control what happened earlier. Yes, Joe, never skimp over those procedures, especially if you're trying to prove against her. You take that evidence to prove that against her. A strange incident occurred, though. Every time the police would set up 24-hour surveillance, no calls would come in, no notes would be left. The police used this as more proof that it was all faked. But a more sinister explanation could be made that whoever was attacking her had at least information about police movements. Her home was never tested for listening devices. The police never did an investigation in the policeman that Cindy had recently been seeing. So you're seeing a lot of stuff police aren't doing. If the attacker really wanted to make Cindy look crazy, avoiding making themselves known when the police were watching would cast a lot of doubt on her story. Now, I mean, you guys have had the case embedded in your head of Amber Heard. That looks like an actual wound, but nowadays we know about self-inflicted wounds, so what does it really mean? Now, the next attack was a rapid escalation that left Cindy hospitalized. She was found near frozen, suffering from hypothermia in a ditch over 6 miles from her home. She was left wearing a man's work boot and glove with a black nylon stocking around her neck. Seems like a signature if this is a uh, abduction, kidnapping, eventual murder case. Um, She had black and blue around her eyes and other numerous injuries and bruises to her body. Seems a lot to be self-inflicted. If she's working alone. Do you guys know the story of Sherry Papini? I'll wait to see in the chat if anybody knows that. Sherry Papini was the woman who claimed she was kidnapped, but ended up she was just with an ex-boyfriend for like 6 months, and then or like a few months, and then came back with a whole story of how she was kidnapped, and the cops realized she was lying. Sherry Papini. There's a show called Crime Weekly. I really enjoy it. Actually, the girl that's on it is from Rochester, New York. Her name's Stephanie Harlow, and the other guy's an ex-cop. If you guys want to hear more about that story, just look up Crime Weekly on YouTube. It's very interesting. I mean, she just straight up lied. Like, she just straight up lied. She went running one day, got picked up by this guy, and then just evaded everybody. And then came back and said 2 Puerto Rican women abducted her and let her go. Very odd. Maybe I'll show you guys that after this. Maybe we'll just keep this full spooky and do a whole episode tomorrow on the chicken holocaust. After the last attack and fearing for her life, she asked her friend Agnes and her husband Tom Woodcock to stay with her one night. So she dated a guy named Makepeace and a guy named Woodcock. She knows how to pick those names, boy. To stay with her. One night after everyone had gone to bed, they were awoken by noises in the basement. When they went to see what was going on, the basement was in flames. As they tried to call 911, the phone line was cut. Tom ran outside to go ask a neighbor to call the fire department and saw a man standing in front of the house. Tom asked the man to call 911, but the man instead started running away down the street without saying a word. I would say that's a little bit in her direction. You know, that gives her story some credence. Someone says, "What's up, Just K? Got a bad tattoo?" Guys starting rumors out here. Just K's got a Davy Crockett logo tattoo. So yes, a very bad tattoo. Police determined the fire was deliberately started and labeled it an act of arson. They searched the basement windows and said they couldn't find any usable fingerprints on the windowsill that the perp would have had to enter through, therefore determining the fire was staged. Investigators also pointed to the fact that Cindy walked her little dog alone at night, that she must not be scared of the attacker. Here's another thing that they said she must have put together. You're dead, soon Cindy, knife, soon, kill, 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 with a picture of her. How are they getting these pictures of her? I'm not sure. Phone's dying. But yeah, thanks Randy again for the dono. If anybody wants to support the show, support the Spooky Sundays, Coffee with Crocos, and other shows, Cash App $ Croco Truth. So it was just all too much. Those close to Cindy noted that her mental state seemed to be deteriorating under the pressure. Worrying that Cindy might be suicidal, her doctor committed her to a psychiatric hospital. After 10 weeks of care, Cindy was able to go home. She confessed to her family and friends that she'd been holding information back. She claimed that her attacker had threatened to kill her family if she outed them. Then Cindy said that she planned to go after them herself. Bad move. Yes, Cindy was in state of mental decline and was suicidal, but anyone who had been through the years or ordeals that she had would surely be suffering from stress-related issues. Someone says, I want a Midnight Crockpot tat. I just want the Midnight Crockpot channel back. Wild Smile, if you're listening, just send those passwords over so I can, do Spooky Sundays over there and be monetized and, maybe make, I don't know, $50 a month in monetization. A donation of 20 came in, but I don't know exactly who it is. So if you just sent that, just say in the chat who you are, because I don't want to give away. I'll just say Tsunami. Tsunami sent in a $20 donation without a message. And that's obviously appreciated. Yeah, we need the Spooky channel. I can start from scratch. Okay, there he is. Big Hair Tsunami. Haven't seen you in a while, buddy. I really haven't seen you, but I appreciate the donation. It's obviously very cool. And then obviously Tamora from earlier gave $10. Very cool, guys. Really appreciate it. Really appreciate that. Then she broke her silence. Someone says at least 3 Benjamins a month. No, I don't think, because my last season 1 of Spooky Sunday was monetized, and the most I ever made was it. You have to have $100 to withdraw the money, and it took me 2 months to get there, and that had 2,000 subs, and that included super chats, memberships, the whole 9 yards. So you'd be very surprised, and also YouTube takes 37% of the money. So, yeah. But yeah, it'd be nice to have that monetized channel that he said, yes, I'll give to you. But I'm just waiting for the passwords to sign in. I messaged him like, yo, can I get those passwords? Now she finally broke her silence. Oh, Big Tsunami says you do a lot of good work. Sorry I've been gone. Oh, don't apologize, man. We all gotta live our lives. Sometimes I'm gone. Finally, Cindy went back to police and told them who she believed was behind the attacks. Who did she name? The ex-husband, Dr. Roy Makepeace, who was a psychiatrist. So he can manipulate and do all of this stuff. And he was also... The attacks happened 3 months after they left, after they divorced. Police spoke with him. He denied all allegations, turned over evidence he had on his answering machine. Someone supposedly who was harassing his ex-wife had called and left death threats for him. Now, obviously, he could do that or have someone do that. I'm going to try to open this link really quick because there is an audio. There is audio from this case. Alright, now Big Hair Tsunami is getting out of control. So he says dead meat soon. Very bizarre, but Big Hair Tsunami just shot a $50 donation on top of the $20 donation that he just sent in. So let's all thank Big Hair Tsunami for supporting the channel. That's very cool of him. Just Kay saying I'm her favorite channel. That warms my heart. I really appreciate that. I think the people that come around, the Obese Tunas, the Just K's, the Roccos, the Tamoras, like all you guys. I mean, you tell me, like, other than the content and that kind of stuff, like, I always think about it as, like, it's just a genuine thing. You know what I mean? It's just like, there's an honesty that you guys may feel, and it's just like a hangout with you guys. But yeah, very appreciative of that 50 donation with no message. Yes, a tsunami of donations, Obese Tuna. Mr. Obese Tuna. So that was the dead meat audio. And they also said that could have been done by her. Her ex-husband said he believed, now he's a psychiatrist, so take this with a grain of salt, that she was suffering from a split personality. This has never cooperated. This has never cooperated. Hold on. Okay. Now, I don't think they meant cooperated. This has never been corroborated, is what I think this should say. Because the medical staff and doctors who treated her at the 10-year stay never diagnosed her with this. Okay, so we're going to get into some creepiness here. This is the final picture of Cindy. I know it's not the best. We're talking a while back. Now she has her hands and legs tied behind her back, and she is, in fact, found dead. Cindy had gone to the mall to do some grocery shopping and deposit her paycheck from the hospital. She never made it home, so robbery was not a motive. Her car would be found in the shopping mall where she was last seen on May 25th, 1989. When investigators went over the vehicle, they found blood on the driver's side door, and items from her wallet were thrown about outside the car. In the trunk, they found the groceries Cindy had bought, along with a wrapped gift she had gotten for someone. For 2 weeks, her families and friends were left to wonder where Cindy was and what was happening to her. Then the gruesome discovery of her body shocked everyone. She was found in the front yard of an abandoned house in a rather high-traffic area with lots of pedestrian foot travelers. So she was either dumped, because she couldn't have been there for 2 weeks, or someone wouldn't notice. So it initially seemed she couldn't have been killed when she first was reported missing, but after the autopsy, it showed that she died most likely the day she disappeared. So someone must have held her and dumped her. Her body showed numerous wounds, including that injection mark on her arm. It was a high dose of morphine. Now, this is very important, guys, because it was a very high dose of morphine, but they also want to claim that she was able to do this to herself after dosing herself. And Joey Allen, no, they did not believe her. They still said she was capable of doing this herself, even though she may have been passed out from the morphine. Now, their story goes she injected the morphine, quickly tied herself up, and then died. But morphine doesn't kill you. Morphine doesn't kill you. I mean, unless it was that high of a dose. If it was that high of a dose, it would have hit her so fast that she wouldn't have been able to do it. Did Justin Trudeau do it? I'm not sure. She was a nice looking blonde in her day, but this did happen in America. I love these cases where some people don't know. She was found with both of her hands and feet tied behind her body. Around her neck was the signature black nylon pantyhose, I'm guessing, which had been used to strangle her, or leggings, stockings, whatever you may think. Big Hair Tsunami says medical examiners are easily intimidated or paid off. Tamora says impossible. This is why I love these cases with you guys. This is why I try to pick the mysterious ones. How many people are watching right now? I'll know in 1 second. I just want to see. 30 people. We'll get these numbers up eventually. I think one of the problems is, one, I was hacked a while back, and two, they give me the X tag, so those don't go out to a lot of people. What was missing from this scene, and this is very, very important to the theory where I think she was murdered. The bottle, the needle, and the morphine were missing from the scene. So she would have had to take the morphine somewhere way far away, make it to that location, and then tie herself up. Because she couldn't have been stumbling down the street with her hands tied behind her back. You know what I mean? It just wouldn't make sense. The police concocted the notion that Cindy had injected herself elsewhere, discarded the needle, then walked 1.5 miles to the scene, where she then tied her feet and hands behind her back after strangling herself. So even if you believe all that, it still seems odd that her body wasn't discovered sooner, because she was there for 2 weeks. Auto hoax, I don't know the answer to that question. And I don't know what you mean by EBT's Discord. I really don't want to get into this right now. I addressed it at the beginning of the stream. You can catch the D-Live replay. I gave my I gave my thoughts on that. And I see nothing missing from EBT's Discord. And EBT's in the chat, so you can ask him if you'd like. And I'm not being disrespectful. I'm just saying I don't know. And so, I mean, that's just an odd thing. This is very suspicious. Let me just read that one more time. She had injected herself elsewhere, discarded the needle, walked the 1.5 miles on the scene, where she tied her feet and hands behind her back after strangling herself. So if you believe all that, it still seems odd that her body wasn't discovered. She was there for 2 weeks in a high foot traffic area. She looks barefoot in the picture. Where are her shoes? Probably with the morphine and the needle. The official cause of death was morphine and drug overdose, even though the Royal Canadian Mounted Police claim it was suicide or possibly an accident. Obviously was not an accident. You know, you don't have morphine and tie yourself behind your back tie your hands and feet behind your back in an accident. The coroner ruled both of these out. The private investigator believes that she had been taken and killed elsewhere, then her body was dumped shortly before it was discovered. That sounds highly likely. EBT, right above you, Auto Hoax has a question. If you want to answer it, you may. True Metal Jake says there must have been a reason the cops thought she was making it up. She was probably nuts. True, but if her story is true and she went through 10 years of that, you might go a little nuts too. The story that sounds plausible is that she's been taken, killed, and her body was dumped shortly before it was discovered. Her private investigator also believes, along with her parents, that the police were interested in finding who was attacking Cindy, but trying to blame the victim. In the aftermath, both Cindy's parents had both passed away, never knowing what really happened to their daughter. Her sister Melanie has written a book and runs a website dedicated to trying to find her sister's killer. What do you guys think happened? And I'll do we'll do that stream on the fires tomorrow because it's already 2 a.m. But I'm not leaving. I'm not leaving. I want to pull up a little bit about that Sherry Papini case. And I just want to make sure if there's no audio or video I missed. But that tells the whole story. Very odd case. Okay, so that's the threatening message. Alright, so that's just a picture of her dead body. Yeah, I think we covered it all. So that is the bizarre death of Cindy James. Wow. It was so long ago. When you overdose, it's not way later. It's pretty soon after the dose, right? I overdosed once. My friend said it was pretty instant. I was able to be saved. Sorry for any of you guys that had to deal with me and didn't like me. I did survive, so I apologize to you guys that, never wished you saw me, but I'm here. God had a plan for me, so I apologize for all of you that wanted me dead. I'm sure there's a Reddit dedicated to that, but I'm here. But yeah, when you overdose, it's pretty instant. It is pretty instant because if you can handle or not handle, if you can do the drugs and last throughout the day, you're not gonna overdose. It's usually a sudden hit, and nowadays it's a sudden hit because fentanyl and things like this that are way stronger than what people are used to, and they're injecting it and overdosing. So give me a second to try to find a little bit about this Sherry Papini case. And it's just an odd one. So give me like 1 minute to find. But I appreciate you guys being here. If you want to wait a minute.